I hope you enjoy my stories. Instead of just clicking thumbs down, please comment and share how we can do better. If you do like our video, then please like and subscribe.
Living right next to the HOA president and his wife turned my daily life into something akin to a front-row seat at a never-ending comedy show, the kind that leaves you with both laughter and a touch of disbelief. These two were the epitome of commitment to their roles within the HOA, embodying the spirit of the association with a zeal that seemed to go beyond what was reasonable. Their lives revolved around meetings, rules, and, of course, the enforcement of those rules, painting a picture of dedication that could be admired if it weren't so overwhelmingly zealous. It appeared to me that their involvement in the HOA wasn't just about maintaining the community's aesthetics or ensuring a peaceful living environment for all residents. No, it felt more like a well-orchestrated endeavor to extract money from the rest of us, under the guise of maintaining the common areas and funding community events that rarely seemed to justify the expense. $100 a month might not sound like a king's ransom, but when you consider what we were actually getting in return, it started to feel like daylight robbery. No beautifully manicured gardens, no pristine community facilities, not even the semblance of neighborly love that such fees were supposed to foster. I steadfastly refused to sign up for this seemingly extortionate scheme. Why would I willingly contribute to a fund that seemed to serve no other purpose than to bolster the HOA's coffers, with minimal visible benefit to the community members it was supposed to support? It was an ongoing battle, a constant push and pull between the HOA's attempts to enforce their policies and my own steadfast resolve to resist what I saw as an unjustifiable financial burden. Living next to the HOA president and his wife, I was privy to the inner workings of the association, the behind-the-scenes efforts to maintain control and compliance amongst the residents. It was an experience that, while often frustrating, provided an unparalleled insight into the dynamics of power, community, and the importance of standing up for one's principles in the face of what I considered to be a misguided authority. For what felt like an eternity, they had been persistently chasing me, trying to coax me into joining their exclusive club. But my stance was firm. I consistently refused their invitations. My refusal, it seemed, did not sit well with them, earning me disapproving glances and whispers from certain nosy neighbors. But frankly, I couldn't care less. It's my property, my domain, and I firmly believe in the principle of autonomy over it. My refusal to conform to their desires was a statement of my independence, a defense of my personal space against the intrusion of community expectations. In light of this, I've fortified my home into something akin to a fortress. Security cameras dot every conceivable angle of my property, blending so seamlessly into the architecture and foliage that they are virtually invisible to an untrained eye. This network of electronic sentinels is my line of defense, my eyes when I can't be there to watch over my domain myself. This setup has always given me a sense of security, a feeling that despite whatever pressures I face from the outside world, my home remains my sanctuary, untouched and unbreachable. And then, there came a moment of vulnerability when I decided to take a rare short vacation. Recognizing the importance of maintaining some level of normalcy and not wanting my property to scream unattended, I made the unexpected decision to entrust a neighbor with the task of collecting my mail. This gesture, though simple, was a significant deviation from my usual guarded stance. It was my way of extending a branch of trust, albeit a small one, towards someone from the very community I had kept at a distance. This act, I hoped, would serve as a temporary bridge, ensuring that my fortress home would not attract unwanted attention in my absence. Yet I couldn't help but feel a slight twinge of anxiety at this, my defenses temporarily lowered. But then, about 3 days into my trip, my phone starts blowing up with alerts. Someone's breaking into my place. I check the feed, and who do I see? Yep, you guessed it, the HOA president and his partner in crime, literally. I call the cops, but by the time they show up, the culprits are long gone. So, I cut my trip short and rush back home. I review the footage, and it's like watching a comedy of errors. They're sneaking around, trying to avoid the cameras they knew about, but they totally missed the ones inside. Handing over all the evidence to the cops was a move I was initially hesitant about, but seeing the swift action that followed reassured me of its necessity. They were arrested quicker than I had imagined, a demonstration to the overwhelming proof I had against them. However, this was merely the tip of the iceberg. It turns out, their home was a veritable treasure trove of ill-gotten gains, including a significant portion of my possessions. The discovery left the cops in utter disbelief, and as for me, fury doesn't even begin to cover what I felt. The court proceedings were something out of a movie. With all the evidence laid bare for the judge to see, their fate was sealed. The judge, clearly appalled by the breadth of their criminal activities, decided to set a strong example. Their sentence was severe, ensuring they would have plenty of time to reflect on their misdeeds behind the iron bars of a cell. It was a moment of vindication for me, seeing justice served so unequivocally. Regarding the Homeowners Association, HOA, the revelations that unfolded were equally shocking. What I had initially thought to be a legitimate organization turned out to be just another elaborate scheme concocted by these crooked neighbors. The fact that they didn't even go through the basic legal procedures to establish a real HOA was both astonishing and telling of their character. The so-called HOA dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind a trail of disbelief and relief among the neighborhood. Life indeed goes on, albeit with a few lingering glares from some neighbors who perhaps still believe in the innocence of those now convicted. Those disapproving looks, however, have little effect on me. I stand firm in my resolve, comforted by the fact that justice has been served and that the malignant entity that was the HOA is no more. This ordeal has taught me the value of perseverance, the importance of standing up for what is just, and the peace that comes with the resolution of long-standing conflicts. I can now look forward to days filled with tranquility, free from the unnecessary drama that once plagued me. Interesting story. Why would an HOA side with one complainer? Was told this years ago by a former work friend. He had a buddy, let's call him owner, that lived in a large home with a 3-car garage in one of the county's prestigious areas. Guy had an Econobox for commuting to his job, but he also had a classic late 60s Camaro that was restored to concourse-level condition that he drove on the weekends in special appearances. As one would expect, the engine gave off that lovely classic muscle car lope. As any car guy will tell you, that lope comes from the camshaft in the engine, not the exhaust. Anyway, everyone loved the car, until a new neighbor, let's call him Man-Baby, moved into the house a couple of lots down. Man-Baby complained that the lope gave him headaches and discomfort. Owner tells him there is nothing that can be done. It doesn't matter what exhaust is on the car as the sound is from the engine. Man-Baby tells him he needs to fix it. Owner says he is not messing with a numbers-matching engine and offered multiple concessions: not drive it past his house, not rev it up in the neighborhood, not start it during certain hours, that sort of thing. Man-Baby says he works from home and tells owner the only thing that will help is if owner takes his Camaro and stores it off-site. Owner tells him he just talked his way out of him doing anything at all and to kiss his ass. Suddenly, owner gets a letter from the HOA that his car is causing issues. He sends it back that it's just Man-Baby that has an issue and there is no way he is storing his prized possession in an off-site storage facility when he has a 3-car garage. Rinse and repeat to 2 more letters, and a couple of days afterwards he sees a tow truck backing into his driveway. He runs out and asks the tow driver what's happening. Tow driver says, "I'm here to remove a nuisance vehicle." Owner says, "Like hell you are." Tow driver gets out of his truck and starts to make a beeline for the garage, and that's when owner whips out his cell phone and says, "I got you for trespassing. If you touch my garage, I'll also get you for breaking and entering. Take one more step and I'll call the police." Tow driver says he isn't paid enough for this, tells him to call the HOA as they send him there, and leaves. So he did. Turns out, the owner's HOA has a nuisance vehicle clause, where if they receive more than 3 complaints, it doesn't matter if it's the same person complaining, they send a tow truck to remove it. The HOA actually yelled at the owner for threatening to call the police on the tow driver and asked him, "Why didn't you just make the guy happy and fix your car?" Owner says he is not messing with a numbers-matching engine and then asks, "Why can't you just tell the guy to kick rocks?" HOA actually tells him, "We don't want to start a war over this," and sides with the Man-Baby. I asked my work friend whatever happened, and he said that the HOA tried sending some more tow trucks to steal his car. He eventually got fed up and moved into a neighborhood with no HOA. My question is, can an HOA really do this on the word of one person? And what the heck does "we don't want to start a war over this" mean? Are they afraid Man-Baby would turn green and go all Hulk smash on them? Adventures with my mother's HOA. I lost my mother a few years ago at the peak of COVID. Because of that pesky pandemic, it took months for the court system to open my mother's estate. Her home was in an HOA. Mom's death was sudden, and she passed without a will. My sibs and I agreed I would act as executor and handle the estate until it could be divided. After her death, I took the death certificates around to let all her utilities know she was gone and the estate wasn't up yet. Enter Ed. Ed headed up the HOA. I notified them via certified letter and with a copy of her death certificate. I explained that it would be a while before the judge formed her estate and left my name and number in case of an emergency. This was the worst decision. Ed calls me, and I can tell right off that he's an older chap who loves enforcing the HOA rules. Mom is late paying the HOA fees, and I need to pay them. Yeah, no, I already paid all the utilities to keep the house warm and lit out of pocket. Ed didn't like that and warned they wouldn't let this slide for too long. The day the next bill was due, Ed called to remind me that my mom was 2 months behind. Great, thanks, Ed. Still, I cannot do anything about it until the estate is formed and I can access the accounts. He began calling once a week to pester me to pay the bill. 4 months after my mom's death, I'm still waiting for the courts to establish the estate. Ed is practically frothing at the mouth at my indifference to his demands. That is when he tells me that he will have to get the lawyers involved if it is not paid. Guys, I lit into him. I asked him who exactly he intended to sue. My mom is dead, there is no estate, and the house is not in my name, nor am I the executor of anything yet. There is nothing to sue, and his lawyer will tell him to let the courts do their thing. I ended the call by giving him the number of the estate lawyer overseeing Mom's estate and added that if Ed insists on going that route, all communication can go through the lawyers. That shuts Ed up for a whole month, 1 month of peace and quiet. The estate is opened, and the HOA gets paid. That's not the end of Ed. He rings me to ask what we are doing with the house. Since I would rather live in an empty shipping container than in an HOA, I tell him the family is selling. Ed immediately says we have to go through their real estate agent. It's in the rules. I checked my mom's papers and found the association strongly encourages the use of one agent who knows the community. My siblings and I took a pass on that one. Before the open house, the agent, not Ed's, listing the house gets a call from Ed. The HOA would like to inspect the interior to be sure everything is in order before the listing is live. Again, we declined and reminded Ed that the HOA isn't entitled to the house's interior. I assume Ed dropped in during the open house, but there wasn't anything to see. The house was empty and pristine. The day the new owners closed on the property was the happiest of my life.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.